Fire Department.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, for your frog here, my granddaughter catches a couple of days.
Oh, she does?
A little pond in her house, there's catch and release, so I'll
Yeah.
go over there.
Yeah, ask her if she's,
I'll have to have her bring them over to me, I'll look for the frog. Maybe it's eyelashes, I don't know.
yeah.
All right, we are live.
All set?
Yep.
Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, everyone, welcome to the official canvass meeting of the Washington County Board of Elections. Looks like we've had our call to order, pledge of allegiance, public comment. Does the public want to comment? I'm not sure we get any comments off of Zoom.
I think it comes up on here. Yeah,
Okay.
there it is. I don't see anything on here.
There's one watching us.
I think she came from over there. Mm-hmm.
It says one watching now.
Oh, well, good.
Well, hello, viewer.
Yeah.
It might be one of our staff members, actually.
Oh.
I'm not sure. Yeah,
Well, we'll see how it goes, huh?
and we do have, Jack.
Right. I was going to say, do we want to take care of that? Because you probably have other things you're going to be doing
I do
today.
have a appointment at 11:15. Mandy, in my first meeting, is this appropriate time to, I think we're, with our.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah, we got
my.
you on here, so.
Okay.
You can-
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I have a question. As you know, I've been working on the equipment team. Last fall, we all ended up and put in the weeks of extra work to make sure the election came off without any flaws. And I had some discussion with Mandy about what I saw as a possible payroll issue. And I guess maybe I should, I'll talk to her, I'll talk to the Washington County Auditor's Office, who actually threw back in your laps. And so I wanted to get some clarification, maybe it's my misunderstanding on one part of it. First part, maybe I should be asking the stipend. That has been established for the equipment team is what in its parameters? Because where I'm coming back around to is Ohio minimum wage. There was an issue with payroll, and I wanted to discuss that as the main part.
Well, what are your
What's the
concerns?
question?
Okay, well, I'm not sure exactly what year I was hired, but when I was hired, it was at $8.50 an hour. And I'm assuming the other people were probably about the same. Annually, that can be adjusted according to Ohio Revised Code 4111, which they have raised it. I noticed last fall that it was still at $8.50 an hour, which is below the Ohio Revised Code standard. It was $8.70 last year. It is gone to $8.80 this year. It was $8.55 back in 2019. And I'm thinking I started 18, I may have started 17, but nonetheless, the main point, it looked like that has not been updated and payroll has been calculated off that amount of $8.50 consistently. I thought the auditor's office would be the people that would flag it down and say, to all the departments, here's what minimum wage is. And with that said, they threw it back in the lap. So the board says, well, you're the ones that advise them when to raise it, which, to me is counterintuitive to the state says here's where it is. So I'm just trying to figure out where that is established and calculated. I'll just wrap my mind around it.
I don't know if we ever,
I know the last time we talked, that we was going to look at that because I said, why are some of these people we're paying $9 an hour and we're paying them $8.50 and we should bring them up to either that. That's the last time we talked anything about it. We said we tabled that until later.
Yeah, later's today, I guess.
Yeah, right.
What's, what are we required to pay? This is not a state job. This is a county job.
Right.
So what do we say?
I'll be honest, Mandy mentioned to me that she tried to talk with the auditor to get some kind of insight. And his only comment is that each iteration has been 10 cents. I think that's more or less a quote. I got that right.
Yeah, that was something he had mentioned.
So
But he did say the same thing that, you know, each board sets the wage that they don't tell us, you know, what to pay.
And it could be it's never been flagged because when you add your stipend in, you clearly make more probably than just about anybody out there, and it clearly exceeds the minimum wage. And I don't know that we ever really gave the stipend because of a minimum wage thing. Frankly, we gave it because we didn't want to lose people that our perception was they were doing a good job. And when you kind of gave them their pay, it wasn't extraordinary. And that stipend, if you will, certainly to us made sense. And it seemed to work over the years that we didn't lose people and so forth. And so I suspect that we probably just needed to have someone bring it to our attention. We can certainly turn it into a, you know, if the minimum wage is $8.80, and again, I don't know if that's true for county jobs or not, but we certainly don't want to run afoul of some state auditor coming in and telling us we've done something untoward. Whether it would impact our stipend would be something we'd probably also be discussing.
The current minimum wage in Ohio is $8.70.
Is what?
$8.70.
For,
The current minimum wage is $8.70 or $1.45 more than the federal minimum wage. There are exceptions to the state minimum wage, such as overtime pay in Ohio, which is $13.05 per hour for any hours worked past 40 in a week, but it doesn't say necessarily as a public employee, a private employee, or whatever.
If I interject here, and I've found some conflicts between a couple of the sites,
Mm-hmm.
but I believe that it did go up to $8.80 as of the January 1st.
Yeah,
It was $8.70
okay.
last year.
yeah,
Like I said, I had to dig a couple of places because some just weren't concurrent with
You're
any
right.
changes.
Yep.
And,
I don't know who that applies to.
And she said that didn't say.
yeah, if it's not, in my understanding, if it's not a tipped employee, which is with Fair Labor Standard Act has always been less and made up in tips, that if, the Ohio Constitution, Ohio Revised Code said that this would be a minimum. So I just, you know, I just think it's nothing more than an oversight, and, you know, there wasn't anything that came down from the state level to notify all the county departments to watch these things.
yeah.
And I thought
The
the
auditor to say something about, you know,
I always
have
thought,
you reached, but again, it could have
Could be
been,
the
well,
stipend.
like I said, our stipend clearly takes well over it.
okay,
And but we probably, maybe we need to really have a sit down with the auditor and so forth and say, here's what we're doing, just so we're not, you know, we're not going to get hot water with anybody about have we done something wrong over a period of years where we are going to have an outflow, because county commissioners certainly want to know that we're, you know, what our budget is kind of what we're spending, and not oh, by the way, a big surprise. Because we have had a big surprise when we lost a member of the group as far as the budget went and so forth. And unfortunately, that couldn't be foreseen or helped. So we're gonna look into it, okay? We're not here to try to, save a dime and so forth, or if it's at $8.50 to save, 30 cents. I mean, that's not our goal and so forth. It would be to, make sure that what we're doing is lawful and so forth, so that we can defend it. And at the same time, a good steward of the county's money, so that we're not, seen as people that aren't sort of watching our pennies as well.
I do believe, from the short amount of time that I've been here and researching it myself, I know that there's never been like steps increase, even for the full-time employees. The raises that we get from the board is voted upon, and it's not guaranteed. So I don't think there's anything, I know there's nothing like that for temporary employees, whether they're the poll workers or anything. I know the Secretary of State has given a guidance of a range. The basic range, I think, is 101.50, which is where we're at now. I am looking into seeing what other counties our size are paying poll workers. I do know Athens pays the same as we do. Of course, we pay for training and everything, but as far as like steps, for in a payroll, there's never been any such thing established, not even for permanent employees here. So.
Yeah. And we try to stay within the guidelines that really the county commissioners are sort of doing across the board, as far as, because we ran into that once where we apparently gave a raise that was more than the sheriff, and they had contractual problems. The sheriff had, there was a contractual issue about if you pay somebody else, then we get that money.
Well, and I think typically what the commissioners, and I can't speak for them, but I think what they do is look at union contracts that they have, and they try to make sure that the exempt employees are still above whatever union contractual obligations that they have. So, and I think that's kind of how things have been working here. But of course, we're not in a union. We're all exempt employees. If the board wants to get rid of us tomorrow, all of us can go. So,
Any ideas or anything?
So, but I think it is something that we need to look at. I think we need to raise the pay, the precinct employees. That's a 14-hour day for them, so.
I thought the poll workers was based on the revised code.
Well, it could be, but like I said, the Secretary of State gives you, because some of the larger counties, like I heard, I went to DC last year, they were paying $500 a day to work the polls in DC last year.
DC.
Yeah, we pay.
Yeah. So I think some of the bigger counties do pay more,
And they have a lot
obviously.
more money too.
And they have a lot more money, exactly.
But we are gonna look into it so that you can understand. You brought it to our attention. I do want to get a resolution of it.
I appreciate that. I mean, and I wasn't referring to the people that work the polls for the primary and the general election. We did have to implement people to get things tested, set up, delivered.
Right.
And you have a certain amount of people there. I always thought that they would, from my background with working for the city and working with our auditor, that yes, we had contracts, we had people exempt from contracts, but they all had to fall into at least the state's minimum wage guidelines. And like you said, the stipend may take it above and beyond that. I always thought, like you said, that was something that you have experienced people that you want to give them incentive to maintain, come back, and to reward them for trying to do above average performance. So I just want clarification on that. I thought it was nothing more than it just slipped through.
And it could well have, like I said, Charlie is right, when he was discussing it, that we had mentioned that we probably needed to address it. It was just one of those things that sort of went away, and now that we've been reminded, we'll have a resolution of it hopefully by June.
Okay, because at least working with the city, for 3 decades, it was always the auditor that came back and said to us,
Yeah.
you know, here's, you guys got your guidelines, you've negotiated, but you gotta follow this for payroll.
Auditor told us, again, he may have been looking at the books saying, I don't see the problem. Yeah.
Okay, well, I appreciate your explanation and
Sure.
following into that. And,
All right. Well, thanks.
And I'll just say is from our end of the team, I think everyone did a stellar job during both the primary and the general last year. Everyone wanted to try to make sure it was right, and I felt that it came out pretty good with
Yeah.
very minimal any glitches.
We certainly had a
Thank
thrilling primary this time. I think with that, we can move to minutes very quickly. We have both April 14 and May 4.
I didn't see any corrections.
Okay,
Alrighty.
so motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
You did both the April 14th and
And
May 4th?
yes, yeah. Do you want me to take mine and
Yeah, sign it and I
I'll
will
pass it
have
down?
it on the website.
We have some bills.
Yeah, now the, I will say the bill for United Rental, I need to contact them because they did charge us tax. We should be tax exempt.
So we'd be approving it subject to
Yeah.
removing the tax.
Well, the amount I put on there is already minus the tax.
Okay, very good.
So, because the total was $661.09
Absolutely.
with the tax.
And it looks like we give back to the government.
Yeah, we're gonna be returning just over 26,000 to the Secretary of State's office from HOPA money that we didn't spend.
I'll take those,
Sorry.
just in case. I tend to lose those, so we're shuffled.
I'll make a motion, we approve the bills.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Well, we had correspondence, looks like pretty much in line with the fact that we had a primary.
Yeah, that's the same.
Was there anything strange about the
Correspondence.
unofficial, official canvas, or was it pretty much, it appeared to be pretty much the same?
Everything's, yeah, pretty much the
Everything.
same. Yeah, the only thing that was really different, I guess, from election night is that the state didn't call to release us. We were just able to leave whenever we were done. So.
Do you think that's gonna be the common thing now, or just because of?
Yeah, I think it was just because it was a smaller election.
Yeah.
I kind of figured that, but I thought I'd ask the question.
That's right.
Yeah.
Especially next year, I figured we'll
Yeah.
have to get released.
Well, one thing that we are going to implement upon recommendation from our friends from Ashland County, we're gonna have those, port runners, the TM runners.
Yes,
So
Yeah,
at
for the-
seven
I think that's an
thirty-one,
excellent idea.
they come up here and we can start calculating right
Yeah.
away.
That was a great idea.
I think that really, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, okay, I wasn't sure what you was talking about.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
the jump drive, whatever.
That'll have to be a team, won't it?
Yes, it'll have to be a bipartisan team. So when, because we're gonna revamp training too, we're gonna revamp some VLMs too. But we're gonna make sure that they appoint a team. The VLM has to stay there, obviously, because they're gonna have to bring back the ballots to us. But those TMs can come right out.
But again, the key part of it is more than one machine.
Right, but they get both.
We have separate bags for those ballots.
Yeah,
And again, you're gonna look into, can we look into whether
Yeah.
there are bags that could be slipped in?
Yeah,
So
'cause,
that when the ballots go through, they fall right into a bag.
and all we have to do
And all you
is,
have to do
tie
is
it.
cinch up the bag,
Yeah.
seal it, and
yeah, Ashland does that,
Yeah,
so
Ashland
we're gonna
County
call
was
them.
doing that came here to visit us. And they sent us a picture of the ones they have.
Okay.
So we could maybe even try to order from the
It
same.
seems communication with different precincts really helps, because you've got a couple of ideas from Ashland, which
Yeah,
is good.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, so that was, yeah.
That will help
Big
us
dividend.
tremendously in that way, then if there's any discrepancies.
Right.
As soon as those ballots come in, we know which OVO to concentrate on.
And the TMs, whenever you read them into the computer back here, it tells you which OVO they came from. So we'll know, so,
Right.
yeah, so everything's.
The only other thing, I was talking to Todd Mullen from RBM. We have gotten into the habit of using OVO, these fancy words. And I was chatting with him, and it seems to me that we should try to describe this equipment when we speak to either the public or even poll workers and not use that terminology. Because the one machine creates a ballot, or it's a ballot marker, whatever you want to call that. The other one is the scanner. And I think when you're talking to them, they are far more comfortable with the designation of what the machine does as opposed to what some company names it.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, Dennis, because when we say freedom votes, you'll get this look across
That
the
blank
videos face like, what's the freedom vote again?
I'm like, it's the touch screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the poll
Yeah.
pads, they're like,
Right.
that's what we check in. So I agree with that. I think that we do have to pay close attention to our terminology, particularly when we're getting more newer poll workers as well.
Yeah, well, I know Kadeem would agree that sometimes as lawyers, we can get so wrapped up in, legalese that the client's sitting across from you and they caught 3% of the whole conversation and you were giving them advice on how to do something.
Yeah.
And they didn't get much
What
because
does
you
Todd say that they
forgot
call the OVO? Do they call it just the scanners?
a scanner and a touch screen to me would make perfect sense, again, for the poll workers.
Yeah.
And if we just get into that habit, then we won't fall back, because I've sat back there at a couple of trainings and you can just tell that blank look, they're not writing it, they're all set to write. And then it's like, I don't know what she said.
Yeah, I agree.
And so if we're also bringing trainers in or something, we would tell them, cut out the lingo.
Yeah.
It's a touch screen and it's a scanner. That's what we own from you guys. That over there is a poll book and it's got a pad where you sign.
Yeah, I agree.
Just as a thought, when you're putting together perhaps our paperwork and so forth, if we're gonna give them pictures. We took care of Mr. Hanses, so the next order of business is the official canvas.
Yep, in your packet, you should have one that says absentee ballots and then one that's what says election and primary and special at the top, but it's the provisional one.
Gee, usually this is something that's paper or stapled.
Yeah, this time it's much
thick.
smaller than November. Yeah, it's much better.
Did we ever get the UOCAVA, the military one back?
We sent out, I think it was 3 and we got 1 back.
We did get one
Yeah,
back.
so he was in the military, he wasn't
Okay.
overseas. in the
You said
military.
30 out, and you only got one back out of 30?
Or 3. 3.
3 military,
10%.
UOCAVA. Yeah,
10%.
yeah.
I was gonna say, I think I had,
Here, the file if you want.
I had it actually,
Cool,
so maybe we can make it over there.
all right,
If you want, we could start with the absentees first.
all right. These are postmarked by the date.
Yes. Now, the first, let's see. These are our group that was postmarked by the date. You can clearly see it on the postmark was
The envelopes.
clearly identified. And all the information was completed correctly on their inside envelope, their identification envelope.
Okay.
And that was the 1 through 6 on the,
Right,
And they had to be postmarked by the 3rd.
yeah, by May 3rd.
Is there, yeah, I tell you,
Yeah, those ones, I was pretty happy with the post.
I tell you, the post office, they did a great
Clear.
job.
Usually, yeah,
They did a really good job.
I see we'll have one.
yeah.
okay, then I'll make a motion, we accept the ballots that are postmarked by May the 3rd, the absentees, the 6 that we have listed.
Second that.
Any further, I have a motion and second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
All right, now the next one on there, that's Roman numeral 5 there, I wonder how really. It's Paul, well, the name was Paul Williams, but it did not have any postmark or fluorescent code for us to check through.
Did it come in the mail? Did you receive
Yeah,
it?
it's got stamps,
Okay,
2 stamps,
okay.
Yeah,
No,
and it was received on the 10th. Charlie, what was the
what date were
date?
those ones?
What are the date range that we have there?
for receipt.
5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 7.
This is 10.
That's pretty,
It's beginning to get out there.
Should that not have the fluorescent code on it though?
It should, but the post office doesn't always.
Is that run through?
It should be run through a machine, yeah, to get it stamped on there. Usually the fluorescent code's on the back or on the front at the bottom, but.
Dean, does that look like that came from either the Pines,
Yeah, it was from up at
Timberline,
Glenwood.
Glenwood,
one or the other?
that's Glenwood.
Do they have a mail service?
Glenwood?
I don't think so. I think the post office goes out there and picks it up.
Just
to
picks it
carry
up.
Yeah,
So they don't use someone like we might,
like Wasco or,
from Wasco.
yeah, not that I know of for them.
Yeah, I don't think so, because some of mine sure out there, they have an address.
I think if you pull out the inside envelope,
Are
what they
there any
sign
dates? Is there a date of signature?
it would be down on the bottom left.
He signed it on the 3rd. He signed it on the 3rd, so obviously we didn't get it on the 3rd.
Right, I mean, you could have mailed it on the 3rd, we don't know, but.
But it may not have gotten postmarked if it was gonna get postmarked until the 4th.
Right, because we don't know what.
Do they have a drop
day.
box up there or a mailbox?
You go to the front counter.
And you just put your mail there? Okay.
It makes it tough for,
Yeah.
for this one.
Well, if there's a silver lining, and there aren't many, we have nothing that is,
That's our,
I know we put that on there, but why does it have a date?
I think it's the date we print it. Or what's the date that's on
Couldn't
there?
have been, that would be May 4th. This is May 4th.
Oh, then it just puts the election date on there.
Okay.
I think in the future too, I know with the absentee applications, that last few days, we take them personally down and say, if they're in Marietta, we do what Sue Syke does and says, please hand deliver these.
walks it in and has
Yeah,
it
walks
stamp
it
it.
in and have them stamp it. I think that's something that we ought to maybe advertise a little with the absentee ballots. Now, obviously, this is, they may not physically be able to go down to the post office, but if they are able to, I mean, the best thing would be to drop it in a drop box,
Yeah.
obviously, but maybe we need to advertise that, possibly the post office
Well,
will care for us to do that, but.
that's quite a ways outside. It looks like the postal service was pretty good about.
Oh, I think they did a great job this
Well,
time.
I'm talking about we just don't have anybody the 7th is,
Was the farthest.
The
Yeah.
farthest, and that's 3 days out.
yeah, I mean, that's a week after signature
Mm-hmm.
in town.
What is this?
Well, that's what Kadeem was talking about, and it looks like to me just in the regular mail, if something had been wet or something on there.
That's, well, something, yeah.
Because it's not, see, if there's a
It's not
fluorescent
central,
code, you
yeah.
usually see it back here. or on the front up here.
It's usually like a
That
bright
looks like
pink
residue
kind of color.
from
That's what I think.
the
it-
other envelope that was
Yeah.
right next to it.
So
Well,
But there's no way
again,
to tell when,
there's no way to tell.
Yeah.
I think it was during Houston's term. Remember, he had a discussion with the Postal Service because they were saying that, you know, they had a lot of misses with their equipment.
Mm-hmm,
And it wasn't a big problem for them because for their purposes, there was a stamp
yeah,
or whatever. And so they were happy.
yeah.
But obviously it wasn't good for the Secretary of State. I just think the 10th is probably too far out.
I'm gonna make a
well,
motion that,
when he signed it on the 3rd.
That's the other.
That's the thing.
I mean, that was the final.
Because that could have been the 3rd at 6 o'clock in the evening, you know, coming down for dinner and puts it on the front desk and they pick it up on the 4th.
Right, exactly. But I'll make a motion that we reject the ballot that was Paul Williams that did not have any date on
a second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
it. Aye.
Okay. That brings us to one more, right?
Yeah, we have-
Absentee.
This person was sent the Form 11S, which is they can use to correct anything that they have missing on their form. And this person didn't sign it, was the reason they were sent that form, and we never got that form back to correct it.
So they didn't sign it originally.
Right.
Yeah.
We
So
sent the
we
form for them to
sent,
sign.
yeah,
They did not send that back.
right. If they had sent that form back, then we could have counted their ballot.
They can also deliver it,
So,
right?
yeah, they
So-
can carry it in,
Or they can come in when during the curing.
yeah, anytime during the cure.
And you folks were cars open
Yeah,
through the whole curing.
Yeah, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
but in the future, I understand, we heard, of course, Emily's sister is a board member at Auglaize County. If you don't have any, you don't have to stay open. Knowing that we had just one, I'm wondering if we could have called and made an appointment with the voter, or they could have come in, and that would
Fixed it.
saved a little bit of time on the staff. I don't know.
Well-
Yeah, I don't know if that's,
Well, I'll be honest, if we get down to where we have one or two, that might be a good discussion beforehand
Yeah.
yeah, we can
about
check
whether
with the
we
state.
can accomplish that.
Mm-hmm. Because they said Auglaize didn't have to open on that week.
Right, yeah.
I'll make a motion that we reject the ballot for James Kowalski due to no signature.
I'll second that.
We have motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we come.
Okay, so
Boy, I'll tell you, like I said, usually there's a staple and they're about.
multiple
12 pages.
pages, yeah. This is just the front, one front.
Yeah,
Now this first one here, number 1, is, which we're using the green number that's on there, is the status number on it, on your sheet.
number 1.
Yeah.
Okay,
This one, that the person had been registered in Darke County, Ohio, and we confirmed with Darke County that they are registered to vote there, and they did not vote there. They only voted here.
so this also acts as a
A new registration.
update.
Right, so they'll be registered to vote now here.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then what Darke County does is they merge them to us so that they're not registered there anymore, they're just registered here.
Right, so we've
And
kind of cleared.
we have good address and all that, good
Yeah.
verification that they live here now.
You know,
Just for our viewers or and our audience, these are our provisionals that we're talking about now and whether the board will accept the provisional vote.
So it's otherwise good to go now.
yeah,
We're gonna do these individually, aren't we?
Yeah, and we can just identify them by their number 1.
I'm gonna make a motion that the application numbered as 1 for Belpre 4A be accepted.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
okay. The next one here, number 2, this person, they didn't move but we have them listed as Frontier School District, and they believe they live in Marietta's school district, which Newport is split, Newport precinct is split between the two.
Yeah, this is a Sheets Run Road.
Yeah, so we had looked on our information that we have from the auditors, and it was saying Marietta City School District. And that's what they voted a ballot that was for the Marietta City School District.
Oh, so everything's appropriate.
Yeah,
So does that mean we made a correction?
yeah, so we'll correct it after the voting here today.
Yeah, gotcha, okay.
To put them in the right school district, because they are taxed Marietta City.
And are we still using that GPS?
We are still using it right now, but it's becoming obsolete. So we have to switch to a new program.
We've been in touch with Buckeye Hills that, in my estimation, are the GIS gurus for our county. The county engineer has got a new program. They believe that there's enough licenses on there, or I don't know if it's a licensing thing or just an access thing. But I need to contact Roger to find out if that's something that we can also get access to. Because these guys use this just for.
We use it a lot.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, so
With as many new homes that are being built, we work closely with the EOC because that's where they get their house number. So I need to talk with the GIS person for the county as well as Roger to see if
and
that's
we might
something.
want to talk to Rich too.
And
see.
Rich.
Yeah.
Exactly, because Argus is obsolete, if they're not
But
going
we
to support it.
need to have it because
Yeah.
as we've experienced, a lot of people are registered based on where their mailbox is located.
Mhm.
And of course, the law says it's where you lay your head, which would not be your mailbox. And especially those farm,
Mhm.
subdivisions and so forth, where everybody still keeps a mailbox out in front.
Well, I think we've had one where
They're
half of the
different
house
school
was in
district.
one school district, and the
Yeah.
other half of the house was in another school
Another school
district.
district.
So-
I'll make a motion that we accept application number 2, voted in Newport, but they're actually in Marietta City School District.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that brings us to,
Number 3.
uh,
So this person was actually deleted at the beginning of the year. As part of the program the Secretary of State has to delete people. And then he tried to go vote. So I had looked up, and you have actually in your packets, there's a chapter 6 from the election official handbook for provisional voting. Because there's the APRI exception that covers certain years where people were deleted. But 21 was not included in that.
yeah, right.
Yeah, and that's in this chapter 6.
Yeah.
19 was the last.
Yeah, well, I think by 19, they cleared up whatever the court's concerns were about how they were doing.
So this photo was deleted the first of this year?
Yeah, in January, or I believe it was January.
But again, this will act as now registered.
Yes, it'll be now registered vote.
Right. I suppose, again, if you're going to do it a small election, again, where one vote would not swing anything, if it had to happen, that's as good a time as any to get re-registered as opposed to
Registered.
suddenly voting on something that's got a one vote margin.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we reject provisional ballot marked as number 3 because he's been removed from the voter rolls and now has been re-registered for the next election.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All right. Now we got,
Yeah, now the next group, these are all ones that we deem to be acceptable. There was a couple that have no ID. There was a couple people that came in to vote here in the office that didn't bring their ID with them, so they voted provisional in here. There's address change, name change.
So all of those have been verified.
Yeah, they're all verified, the addresses are correct,
Permissions have been
everything.
corrected.
signature matches, birthday matches, all that. IDs
Right.
match.
Were there any that you saw when you were going through them that would trigger a poll worker, add-on as far as training goes, that they brought somebody over provisionally that didn't need it? You know what I'm saying?
Actually, I didn't this time see anything like
This was
that.
one time we didn't have that, huh?
Yeah.
So,
Because we've experienced that a time or two where
Yeah.
we've had a couple of voting locations where, how could you have that many provisionals? And I think as we looked at them a couple times, well, that didn't need to be,
Yeah.
they were okay. So that's good.
that was,
So that's very good.
and we had, I think we had 9 that had been in the office, so it was like 12 of them that were from the polling locations this time.
Yeah, we didn't hear the provisionals. I remember.
Was it just by accident that people drive here?
I believe they
Ride
they rode with somebody else.
Didn't happen. I'm just saying. Yeah,
They tended to be older as well, yeah,
okay.
so.
Well, I guess I was just curious because,
Well, you would hope, you wouldn't be driving without your driver's license.
well,
It happens.
it happens. I don't know. I mean, I've gotten to Walmart, got my cart done, patted my back pocket, and guess what?
Yeah.
There was something missing,
Mhm.
and it wasn't in the car.
Oh,
So I'm like, there's nothing frozen. Can you set it aside? I'll be back, but it'll take me 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Because I can't speed very well going back,
right.
Have to be
You don't want to
very-
get pulled over.
I'll
No.
make a motion that we accept the provisional ballots marked 4 through 21. They've all been corrected.
Second,
Have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Can we quickly get those going? Because could we run those through real fast so that we're
Yeah.
done?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Make sure you don't
And we
get
wouldn't
the one
have to
that was
make- Jean,
rejected.
are you okay
So it
with
was,
that? We can.
It was
then we
the
won't have to
third
do a
one down, I
return.
think.
yep, third one down. I put them in order, so it
Okay.
should be third one down.
It should be 3 and
3 and what else?
4, that was, no.
It's
3
just
and
one.
4.
Everybody else is good. We have to-
These are good, and
Okay,
these are ones we rejected.
okay, I'll leave it
Oh,
rejected.
or wait, the one with only the A there is rejected. Or,
No,
yeah, no, that one
1,
was.
2, and 3.
Yeah, those are, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Make sure they keep those, separate as like kinds.
Yeah.
Anything else we can get through?
We do also have an auxiliary bin, which isn't on the paperwork there, but this was for the Knights of Columbus Hall, and this ballot had just stated that they put it was a paper ballot, or, regular size paper ballot, instead of one from the touch screen. So they thought it was just supposed to go in this folder and not be run through the machine with all the other
So it does not make
ballots
sense.
for the touch.
So it just
So it
needs
has
to be
not been
run.
counted, and it does need to be
Right,
counted to make
right.
them.
So it really was about they voted there, they just did a regular ballot.
Right,
Yeah, they could have
Yeah.
scanned it on the spot, but they put it in the auxiliary bin.
yeah.
So that needs scanned?
Yeah, so we don't need
Yeah.
to, but as an election day one, and then they'll have to vote on it here before.
Okay,
Do we need to approve that?
Yeah, you'll need to
okay.
vote to approve it.
I'll make a motion that the ballot that did not get run through the scanner during election day, that is nothing wrong with it, that we accept that now and vote it.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
All right,
All right.
And then he'll have to run that through as election day.
Okay, I'll tell you that.
And then actually, I didn't get a chance to grab it yet. We actually had one that was an absentee for you guys to vote on as voter intent for on election night, and then we missed getting it done on election night.
Oh, so we still need to see it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was an absentee.
Jack, before
always
There's a
fascinates
sign-in
me
sheet right outside the
that
door.
when you
Just sign in
vote
before you leave.
ahead of time.
Okay,
You
thank
get
you.
this, voter intent, but we just don't see them on election day.
I didn't understand that last
Does
one.
or doesn't take.
It was put into an auxiliary then?
The poll worker, because it was a paper ballot,
Oh.
didn't think she could or he
Could,
could run.
oh,
through.
okay, I see what you're
Yep.
saying, okay.
Dumped it in there.
There have been times way back with the old machine,
Mm-hmm.
Karen, where there'd be a group of voters that just sure as could be kept shoving it in that auxiliary slot to the point that we started covering it up with tape and whatnot
wow.
because they weren't putting it in the scanner. God bless them. And so, when they showed up, we'd have a stack of them.
Oh my God.
And it's like, where'd that come from? I mean, did your machine break? We weren't aware there was a malfunction.
Was that the one from Belgrade that we just, that?
This one here.
Oh, that one?
No, this was Newport, but this
Right,
one
so-
was for voter intent there on the.
Lord.
If we can determine what they wanted.
Meant to do.
Boy, this is always good, because this is a one-off. In other words, we can't match it with another.
Looked to me like they tried to erase or, because there's a smudge around the against.
It looks like they tried to get rid of it.
Yeah, they just made the oval so it would look clean.
They retraced the oval.
Retraced the oval so it looks
That's a good
unfilled.
call, Kadeen. I like that.
And then completely filled in for the tax levy.
Yeah, I like
So,
that.
I think it's
I like
for the
that.
tax levy.
Yeah. It's always nice when you have two or three others so you can match them up and go, oh, I see, you can clearly
Right, the
tell
other
what they
people were doing
up
the
to.
same,
Yeah.
yeah.
Same
Yeah,
attempted correction.
Mhm.
yeah, they wanted to fix the form.
There's no doubt about it, what they did.
And Melissa's getting us,
Excuse me.
for
One
it,
remake.
so, yeah, so we can remake it.
So we're gonna
Remake
vote
it.
to
Yeah, we're waiting
remake
on
it.
Melissa, yeah.
Will that be the first remake?
Yeah, that's our only one
So,
for this time.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the ballot. as-
Well, we're remaking.
Yeah, after remade.
do we have to say how we're remaking it or not?
Yeah, for the,
For the
am I
tax
correct?
levy?
It was for the levy.
Yeah, for the levy, yes.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And they'll print us out one and.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Did they white it out?
They tried to
I was gonna say, I
erase
thought it kind of
Yeah.
looked like,
Like
yeah,
an
or
eraser.
something.
Yeah, I thought an eraser too,
Yeah.
because they smudged, I mean, it's so,
It's smudged.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then they decided they needed to put the
Zero back on.
oval.
That's good.
God bless.
I think once we run those, or once we have that one remade and run all of those, then that'll be everything.
Yeah, I was hoping Todd would have a chance to say
Yeah,
hello.
he was back there starting to work
Right.
on, so
Have
maybe
you
whenever.
met Mr. Todd Mullen? He's the guy who he's RBM.
I don't think so.
When he's
All
here.
right, thank you.
And so I wanted to make sure you had a chance to.
If you would want to,
Yeah, so we are using this as a for the levy?
Yes.
if you would
Correct.
just- is that blue?
Yeah, this is blue.
Yeah, we'll run that.
Go ahead and at the top of yours, right, is the, OB,
V or
B for ballot,
B?
or B. Yeah,
B is in ballot.
yeah.
B is a ballot,
Yeah,
okay.
you got an OB and an RB, and they're
Yeah.
both one.
Okay.
Yeah.
OB is the old one, or the original, the remade.
So I'll take this in and run the.
And then Tom needs to come in.
Yeah,
We did hear, or maybe heard, OKI is closing its United States
Yeah, well, it said operations in the Americas. So, and they're the ones that make our ballots or our printers that we print out our ballots on.
That sent us the threatening email that we have to repay.
Yeah,
It's
so
all because of us, that's why
They're closing down because of us, yeah.
So Runback will now be selling Lexmark printers, I believe was the.
Oh, okay.
So, but I mean, these
They're all
are
the same thing.
Yeah, and our ones are OKI, will still be,
I think you're good, Jack.
will still be
Yeah.
supported
All right,
with,
thanks, Jack.
with parts and, like toner and stuff for at least, I think it was up till 2026.
Okay.
So we're still good for a little while with the.
Now, are they offering the support then for these OKI?
What do you need, Melissa?
Yeah, they were still gonna,
Offer the support, okay. Is it
Well,
through
maybe that's
Lexmark or will it be through?
Was that a long knife?
That was a long night.
Who took Jim's place?
I will say it was not I. I won't name any names, but it wasn't me.
Yeah.
so that'll be two, OB and RB.
Yeah, so I'm an RB and you're an OB. Yeah.
I'll just wait on that one before I
Two.
take this one.
OB2
Yeah. And what was the vote?
for the tax levy.
Got it. Cool. Yeah. Good old Huggins. God bless him.
Don't speak ill of my partner.
I'm not speaking ill of him. We just always had a thrill because he loved the big letter opener. And occasionally he'd catch a ballot in half and that was, and he took it, it was in two pieces.
Is that why you bought the machine then, the
Well,
slicer?
we originally had the small ones. We originally used the small ones. I mean, remember, it was a production back in the day. When we were having a presidential and we had all those, we're opening them, slicing them. I mean, you'd go through a slicer and after a while it would gunk up, you know, we had a stack of them. You'd throw it in a pile and grab a new one. And some people, that's their only, I mean, it was truly, that was the only job you had. Then we had a puller. Because we always turned the envelope upside down, so we could always tell a voter, we never saw your ballot.
Right.
Because your envelope was upside down, we couldn't tell. And they pulled it. That was their job. Then somebody took it and unfolded it, and we had all those mobile cards. And so everyone had like precinct 1 through 6 because they were our scanner. We had a 1 through 6, we had a 7 through 13,
Oh, yeah.
et cetera, through like 50 or 51. And they went in stacks. And then we had some heavy object that we flopped on them to start flattening them out. And then at some point, 4 or 6, because there were like 6 machines, we had 6 people standing in front, they'd get their little stack. And every once in a while, you'd get one, it'd be rejected. Be like, well, what's wrong with it? And then you'd look and go, oh, that should have been in the 1 through 6 pile, and it got put in the 7.
Yeah.
And so then you'd hand it to them, they'd shove it through, and away it went.
Put
Seriously,
this on a resume.
yeah.
No one would understand.
Yeah.
No one understands what we're talking about.
Did you slice meat? No, it wasn't.
But again, you know, it was a,
Can we go ahead and change the date of our
it
next
worked.
meeting?
Yeah.
The opener was the greatest thing since sliced bread,
Right.
as far as that goes.
We've got to change the date of our next meeting.
Yeah.
Because it would be while we're at conference on the 9th, so.
Yeah, well, I'll be in Rehoboth.
Yeah, and you'll be-
More.
I don't know if you want to do the week after or.
Well, arguably, I'm guessing for what it's worth, I'll be back by Monday, which is Flag Day. But Tuesday, I have a jury trial, so Wednesday would be the 16th, if you're doing Wednesdays.
I could do it then.
No problem with me.
All right, so 16 it is.
June 16th.
And speaking of the summer conference, they've opened it up since Ohio has lowered the mandates on mask and social distancing. So Charlie and Glenn will be able to attend. Thankfully, I already reserved everybody's rooms. You should have gotten an email from the Hyatt saying your room is reserved on your.
You really need to remind me to take that email. Because it's like email address.
Yeah, it can sneak up on you, so,
But
but I also printed it off. So it is currently on my credit card. We cannot get a business credit card for some reason. We don't know what the problem
Did we
is.
have one?
Yeah, we
We
had
did.
one, and then something happened where I think they charged us a late fee, and then somehow we didn't pay that late fee, so now they've,
Dropped us.
yeah.
Now, who's that through?
Well, I wanted to go local. That was through some bank out in Kansas.
Yeah,
or
First
something.
National Bank of Kansas or something, I think, which
So-
we had.
People's Bank does not do government credit cards, I guess.
Yeah, I think maybe
So-
Huntington does.
So we're gonna check into Huntington to see, but if not, I mean, you can keep it online and then I'll get all the reimbursement.
why don't you
or-
ask some of the other departments, just call the.
That's what I'm wondering. I do. I need to
Yeah.
ask Jamie upstairs, see what they do and what bank they use.
You mean the local bank settlers that do,
They don't,
They don't do credit cards at all.
They
Oh, they don't?
Yes.
Yeah,
People's does.
even personal.
People's does, but
But not government.
they wouldn't do government, I guess. And you'll see, I've seen that at gas stations, no government credit cards allowed. I mean, I guess the government doesn't pay their bills sometimes, so. So June 16th at regular time, 8:00 or 8:30, excuse me.
Yeah.
And then if you wanted to go ahead and, if we wanted to talk about the stipend for the delivery crew, we could go ahead and do that.
Well, when it was originally, when I heard about it, I must admit I was just a little,
Lost.
yeah. I mean, considering we give them a stipend and they have to know they're the only entity, if you will, the only group that gets that, and it's like, here I'm looking for an extra 30 cents an hour. And we're ending up giving you, what's it been, $400?
$400.
Yeah, that's what we've done for the
So I
past
mean,
few.
that's a nice chunk of change. Again, it was, back when we started, it was an important feature because we had a group of guys that were coming in doing LNA. I mean, really the people before Jed and those guys that were coming in and helping out, you gave them a call and they roared in. They understood technical stuff. One of them could actually tear our scanner apart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cabbage, take out the good parts, get rid of the rest, and then when a repair was needed, he did the repairs.
Wow.
So you don't want to lose those people.
No.
You want to keep them as long as you can. They tend to be retired, so, they get involved. You can get involved easily in other activities, or you just don't want to do it. So that was important. We still have some very good guys. I mean, to be able to run a Jed Butler out and do something, he's very comfortable. He's not intimidated by the equipment. He's willing to come in and learn, et cetera. And he does it a lot of time on sort of off time where he doesn't get any compensation. And so I wanted to encourage other people to do the same.
And we have still used some of the guys to come in and help with that.
Yes, well, that's what I mean. So our history is we're still doing it. So again, I guess I'd like to keep them. So my only question is, did we use a full crew or part of a crew?
We try to have 2 and 2, 2 Dems, 2 Rs.
And that would be, this election was the same
Yeah.
as
Well,
all
this
the
time we
others.
had 4, this time, not 6.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay, so we only had 4 this time.
Right.
Right, so we're giving stipends for 4, so I'm more comfortable. I was thinking if we're doing it for 6, they really weren't doing the full job, but 4 of them,
Right, we
it's
just
pretty much a full job because they were also helping with LNA testing.
There were only
Including
6
the truck
persons.
and-
Right,
Yeah, there were only 6.
precincts.
6 polling locations,
6 polling
yeah.
locations,
So-
sorry.
But normally we split it between, because we have 13 altogether, so it's normally split between 2 routes. So
Yeah.
3 people go
So
in
we had a
route.
one route.
Yeah, we just have 1
Work.
route this
So
time.
normally it's still about 6 each.
Yeah,
Right.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we normally use Tom Hoffenberger, and he had an accident on the bike path, so we didn't use him. I'm hopeful
Yeah,
we
he
can
injured
use
his
him in
arm.
November, because we're gonna have to put Jed on the west side this time.
right.
You know, the Jeff, going back to Jack, Jeff said, we're not there for the money, we're there to help. You know, he was upset with
Yeah,
Jack.
yeah.
Right, well, I mean, again,
Well, to
the
me,
only thing is, in the big elections, they were a big help.
Oh, I
we are,
agree that.
if we're required by any statute to pay a certain amount, then that's what we have to pay.
Yeah, that's
You
what
know,
I
that's,
do.
there's no discussion there.
No,
Yeah,
not at all.
Beyond that, it's, you know, frankly, stipend sounds like merit pay, it's a bonus, it's a thank you,
Right,
that we're not required to pay,
right.
but that we do, and I think they appreciate. So, you know, it
Yeah.
sounds like we already pay more than minimum wage, far more than minimum wage.
Minimum
Usually
wage.
increases are not in the $10 range and up,
Yeah.
much less, you know, $100
Nope.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Trust me, when I first heard it, I was a little fussed about,
Yeah.
he's expecting a call back, is he? Yeah. But
So
again,
we'll check it out
this.
and,
I'm just glad that you made the statement, you know, with the stipend, you're more than
Right.
$9 or $8.80.
Oh, yeah,
Point well taken.
yeah,
Speaking of, and this wasn't on the agenda, but this is the payroll for the poll workers for this time. If you look at the long sheet, we ended up having 48 altogether. And we paid mileage to the VLMs. And since we had no in-person training, we were able to pay the online training.
Right.
I think only 22 poll workers took advantage of that. So the round total is $5,335.26 for our payroll for the primary. Which I think we had plenty. I don't think anybody was overstaffed. I don't think anybody was understaffed. There might have been.
ours might have been a little over.
I'd say
nice try, Karen, we were out there.
We were there.
They're sitting there. They should have been cleaning. Maybe I need to prepare them better next time.
We'd have been better off if they'd offered some kind of a buffet at all those places. Probably got more voters in.
Well, and the Secretary of State's office, the Friday before the election, was trying to tell us that we needed to get 100 more poll workers.
They wanted us to get 100 more.
Yeah, and we said, you know, we talked to our liaison, Alex, and he spoke to the, you know, Secretary of State's office for us and convinced them, no.
We know our county better than they do.
Yeah.
We're on top of this.
Right.
well, do we need a vote,
Vote on the stipend.
stipend? Well, I'll make a motion that we pay the stipend of $400 to the 4 workers that worked the last election.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And we have an understanding that the staff is going to, you really need, I think, if Living Good won't give us an answer, can we invite him to June 16th or one of his staff people?
Well,
Yeah.
we can also ask Allison.
That's
Oh,
what I
that was gonna
gonna
be my
say,
other,
too.
yeah, and ask Allison, we want
just
to
need
do it
clarification.
right. The last thing we want is to appear in the paper that we're not doing something right. And because I don't necessarily want to get into a defending the stipend. And you have poll workers that are going, well, wait a minute, you know, I've been doing this 35 years or something. Where's my thank you or whatever?
Well, and I will tell you, the overwhelming majority of poll workers are also doing it as part of their civil duty.
Oh, I agree, but
In fact, many were surprised that they even got paid,
Right.
the newer ones,
yeah.
so.
But after they worked, they found out why.
After last year, yeah, they should have gotten battle pay.
Do you need something on this one?
No, I don't think.
Yeah, they'll have to vote
Okay,
on it.
yeah, you do have to vote on the,
I thought we did.
Yeah,
Well, I'll make a motion to pay $5,335.26 to all the poll workers that are listed on the printout sheet.
I'll second that.
motion and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And then, once we do have the results, I have to, get our certificates of election ready with our final vote totals, so if you want to wait to sign those before you take off after we vote on the final results.
so do we want to go in recess right now?
Yeah, and then will Todd have a second to come in and?
I think he should.
Good.
I think we actually got him for the whole day.
He's standing there.
He might be, I can go check and see if.
Are you done? Yeah. We're,
So, I can go.
Mandy's gonna collect it up.
You want to recess or just wait?
Yep.
You want to recess? Or just wait?
Oh, I think we'll just wait. He's done. I think she's getting the paperwork to walk it in.
I would like to have, not that you have to go to executive session, but a couple of issues that I'd like to talk to the board.
Well, remember the public, so if it's an executive,
Personnel?
Mhm.
But then we need to go to executive session.
we can.
Okay,
We can't take any action there, but we can discuss it.
we
Yeah.
can discuss it there,
If we take action, it's
Okay.
after we come out.
okay.
Will we, Todd comes in or do that now?
Yeah, I just don't know how to turn this.
I'll turn it off.
Oh,
Just, do you need a motion to go
Need a
into
motion.
executive?
Yeah,
yeah, we do. I'll make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss personnel.
I'll second.
any further discussion, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, cool. Is this something that Mandy could come in for?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
We need to, do you want to pause this too?
Yeah, sure, we'll have to put that on pause or something.
First off,
Andy coming in for this.
Yeah.
Go
Oh,
ahead,
maybe.
and
Yeah.
Close the door.
Yeah, well, she's getting the results, so if you want to warm us
I can
up.
give you an update.
Yeah, you can give us the thumbnail sketch and we'll go from there.
We are changing VLMs at Porterfield.
Right,
What's that?
We are changing VLMs at Porterfield.
right.
Thank you.
He wrote, and I don't think I sent it out to you, but he wrote quite a email to us with his concerns. So, I think we're, and Maggie Webster, who was the other poll worker, called after the election and said that it was as bad as we thought it sounded.
She's out there too.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
So, I can't remember the woman's name, but the old VLM, she didn't want to work in November due to COVID. She had called like just a week before the election, and to be honest, I just went with the names that we had from November. So I will put her back in as the VLM.
right.
And, I didn't know if we wanted, he originally came from Belper Church of Christ.
Was he available there?
No, he was just he was just a poll worker.
Okay. Oh, we are.
Yeah.
And you have to leave all or something.
Well,
I just wanted to warn you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how, am I now?
Oh, okay, but then I don't know if we can get back in.
Okay, we can.
Is it on pause now?
Do I just leave meeting?
Well, you want end meeting for all when we're done, but we have the results here anyway.
Okay,
We just want to go.
we can come
ahead.
back in.
I'll need a motion to come back to out of executive.
I second.
Amen. I think it was off.
What'd you say?
You're still on.
Okay, that's.
Oh, we're still
we got
live.
results.
And we're on pause there.
Okay. All right, we're on.
I'll make a motion that we come back out of recess at, I'll have a watch.
11:15. Second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, we have results?
Yes, we have results. We ended up with these vote totals added, it made us 13.5%.
Wow.
Exactly.
Is this a document we'd sign or?
Yeah,
you
that's
have-
one you can
We
sign.
can sign, okay. So we'll send it down and bring it the other way. I'll let everybody see it.
Yeah, before we vote on it.
Yeah. Obviously, nothing changed as far as the numbers, but not.
Right,
we
not
didn't have to
who
do
won or
winners or
lost.
losers or
Right.
anything.
So we had 13%.
13.5, exactly.
13 and a
Out of
half.
6, out of 13 precincts.
Or, there was like 30 precincts, but 6 voting locations.
Will you sign this one?
Yeah, you can sign it.
Yeah, need a motion to accept the official canvas.
I'll make a motion that we accept the certified count for the election based on 5/4, on 5/17/2021 at 11/17.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
And then you also have to sign this.
Well done, well done, well done.
Everybody gets to sign this, we're here today and voted on it.
Maybe when is the regional meeting?
I think it was July 23rd. I've got the paper on my desk.
Yes, it is. Are they invited as well?
Yeah, board.
Okay.
We haven't got any final,
Do you have a July
like,
meeting
mails
or
on
do you
it.
have an August?
Well, no,
We'll have it July.
here's my thought process. If we're thinking about going to schools, don't you think that we should invite principals
Mhm.
and superintendents and board members, whatever, to July?
Okay.
July would be the 14th, would be our normal
You can sign.
date. Good job, Charlie.
Thank you.
And Todd said he'd be able to come in and talk,
Good.
whatever.
Yes, I am still working with Buckeye Hills. They lost their GIS person. Jason was still there, but they lost their other one. They're in the process of hiring a person, and I think that person was to start the beginning of May. Jason told me he was gonna have that person work, because it's easy enough. I asked him to map out all of the school locations and determining that nobody could drive more than 20 miles to a voting location in Washington County. So that person, their new person, GIS person, is gonna work on that. But meanwhile, yes, we do wanna go, I think we need to look at elementaries as well as
Yeah,
high
if you want to
schools.
vote on it.
Okay.
You know, so we're gonna have to, I can go ahead and set up some times if, with the superintendents and.
Principals and board members, we want to open it up to,
Yeah,
we don't want to at all. Because I think one of the questions we'll probably want to ask, especially during a time perhaps of construction, and there could be further constructions, are we going to, is our goal high schools? Are we thinking of elementary or middle schools? You know, and ask them, you know, your input of, you know, what works best.
okay,
So I think as more people, but I think we ought to do it in July so that come August, September, October, we sort of have a little room, and we got to know if we're going to notify a ton of voters, even though it could be a low turnout affair.
mhm.
You know, it's good to notify them so they have a chance to, you know, figure out if they want to
I'm
vote
wondering
early.
if we should maybe have them come in June, and that way it gives us July. August is crazy for school folks.
They start
Because
in August.
They started.
Well, I understand they start, but I'm just, again, June works for me too.
Okay.
But, so if you wanna call them and they say July's better than June,
Okay.
that'll work for me
Okay.
anyway. But if they say June is the time, I just didn't know whether June is too close to what they have to do to close up shop.
Yeah.
I don't know what's involved.
That's true, they're closing up.
I just didn't
Yeah.
know if there's a lot of work that goes on then that July was better. But
Okay,
they can make that call.
okay. I will check with each of them and,
Well, Todd, it's nice to see you. I don't believe you've met Kadeem
Hi.
Ritter yet, or maybe you have.
Did we meet were you here for the demonstration?
I was here for the demonstration.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah,
So was
before
that-
I became.
What a mind you have there, Todd, remember that.
wow.
Well, I got to know. Yeah, but we did meet then. So we met one other time.
Oh, well, good.
How's everybody doing?
Pretty well.
Oh, we're doing great if it wasn't for Runback and, no, I'm sorry,
Don't talk about that.
data or whatever.
We'll talk about that just for a second. Everything, we added a total of 28 ballots verified from election night that you started with a certain number. Our new number is 3343 for total vote count, which is 28 more than we had on election night. You always just want to make sure that when you're doing things like this, that you take your data from election night. It sounds very, very simple, but you hate to make a mistake at this point. And just make sure we start, we verified with where we started, we know where we've got to be, and so when we get there, we know exactly where we are. So we just want to make sure that you use all the audit data that you've got with this system in order to make sure that you don't inadvertently give out the wrong information. So, but I just wanted to touch base. Dennis just commented a little bit, and one of the problems that we have, not necessarily this county, but across the state is the interaction of Runbeck and us and the customers. And Runbeck is your company that produces your on-site absentee or supplemental ballots. And the easiest way to explain it to you is that Charlie and I are reps for Runbeck, or we're the technicians. And Charlie is here a month ago. I was here 6 months ago. I thought that the settings on the printers should be ABC. I left them like that. I was wrong. Charlie comes in behind me and says, well, Todd knows what he's talking about. I'm not going to touch them. And then we end up with settings that are wrong on the printers. And then what happens is, simply because those settings are incorrect doesn't mean that the ballot won't print. The ballot will still print. The problem is they won't read through the scanner. And when they won't read through the scanner, it's absolutely heck to pay. I mean, you don't know it until it's probably too late. So we want to make sure that I kind of want to take that settings information away from Runbeck and put it in this office. Put that knowledge base here. So you don't have to rely on one of the two techs that comes in, making sure that Charlie or Todd knew what they were doing. And you guys, office staff knows. And the point I'm getting to here is I think we'd like to see if we can come in and do some more training. And the training would be, I'd like to see us do a full umbrella, but start off with the printing of the absentee ballot to make sure that whatever you're printing, you're able to check and verify yourself instead of any guesswork. If someone says, I can look at that ballot and tell you whether that's going to run through the scanner or not, I will bet you that you're wrong. So I just want to make sure that we take that knowledge base and put it right in this office as best we can with some better with some more documentation, but just to have everyone, now that you've done it a few elections, now it's easier when we talk about what an OVO is or what a central scanner is. We're all on the same page, that we know it all a little bit better, and we can kind of talk about, well, if we set it up this way, what that means is that our poll workers are going to see this. And when we call in for questions, they're going to be seeing this and this and this. So we're all on the same page of what they're seeing. And now that you've used the system for a little bit, I think you're much better equipped to absorb the training than maybe we were
Oh,
when we
I-
first
I would
changed
think.
systems. Because when you first change the system, it's like information overload.
Mhm. Yeah, after having, being the newest member here and going through 3 elections, I welcome that because if something, God forbid, would ever happen to Mandy or Melissa, because they are the ones right now that know, because we've just been so busy with 2020, I didn't get a chance to learn. I had to learn the top stuff and not be able to get into the meat of things, so.
And that's a big part of it too.
Yes, it is.
You started off with the presidential election, which was just a bear cat. And all of us that have been here before know how tough that was.
Yeah.
You're getting curveballs thrown at you from every direction. And then there's some edicts from the state that says, well, hey, we're not gonna do it this way anymore. We're gonna have you do it this way. So you're all worried about that. And then you've also got new equipment, new software, all this other stuff too.
Well, I know having the second printer, I commend the board for seeing that, having the foresight to see that, to know, because if that printer would have, and it did shut down on us a couple times, having that second printer was extremely helpful.
And what I would suggest, I would suggest everybody learn all aspects of the equipment. Because Murphy's Law prevails that if you're the only one that knows a certain aspect of the equipment, you are out for some reason on election day, you're sick, there's something that happens to you. So Murphy's Law prevails. So my suggestion is everybody learn everything. And I don't know if that takes having, bringing in maybe a temp. I'm not sure what you do for office staff when you have the meetings up in Columbus.
We normally close the office down if all of us are gonna be out.
Yeah, I would almost ask that you say, we're gonna act like we're closing the office down, because if you're having training, all of a sudden, someone's gonna be coming in and out of this room because they're handling the front desk. And then inevitably they say, hey, Mandy, only you can help Dennis or Todd. So I want your undivided attention, because I think when you're being pulled away, you end up wasting about half of your day of training when you didn't realize you just did.
And I will tell you, we are looking, this is so important, Todd, and I'm glad that you brought this up, because we're in the process of revamping the poll worker training as well.
Okay.
And, where we have had these manuals that we give out to each of the VLMs, they're trying to refer to that, and we see pictures, but, we have found that was written, I don't know if it came from you guys or whoever it came from, but it's so technical that people aren't grasping, the real, how is this, how is this situation affecting me and how can I remedy it? So I think it's better if we do this in the process, and that way we can then pass it on to the poll workers.
And I think that we've also got what I consider, I call them cheat sheets. And manuals are terrific. And I use my dad as my example of when I was a kid, Christmas time, if you got a gift that had a manual in it, you grabbed that manual with your life. Because my dad was the one who thought, you don't need a manual, and he just took all the wrappings and stuff and he threw them in the incinerator back in the old days. And I just want to make sure that, my dad didn't read the instructions and he fumbled through them. He was a great guy, he was very smart. I like a cheat sheet that gives me some graphics that says the picture should look like this. This is what you should see. And if you follow that cheat sheet, even if you miss training, you should be able to turn the equipment on, you should be able to turn the equipment off, and you should be able to do a little tiny bit of troubleshooting, even if you missed the training.
I take it your dad has never bought anything from IKEA.
No, that would have been something that you said, Dad, we'll do this first.
Yeah.
And my dad's a lot like a lot of poll workers. The more pictures and the more easy it is to just walk through it with your eyes is, I think, you're building a better mousetrap.
I agree.
And because your poll workers, God bless them, They only do it every, twice a year. And even in this office, even though you see the equipment all the time, oh gosh, we're doing L&A. What was in the menus, where did you go to do a certain function? You kind of fumble around through it a little bit. And then, oh yeah, that's right. We did it this way last time. And I think what we'd probably like to do is to do some stuff over the phone with you before we come for training.
Okay.
To say, hey, can we share with you some of these newer cheat sheets, as I call them, or manuals, whichever we want to use, but you guys tell us, and then we'll take your lead from there. But what I want to be able to do is, I don't expect to walk out after this training session and say, hey, you'll get 100% on this test now. I think it's something that you have to continue to use, and each election, I think, as a new board member, I think one of the things that you're gonna see is, as you go along, each election is so different. The requirements, whether it's, the presidentials are always the biggest bear cat, but the local stuff is harder because there are more candidates oftentimes. Each one of them is different. And each election cycle, you're gonna say, oh, now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now I get it.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna go a year later and you're gonna say, now I really get it. And it's not until after you go through a full 4-year cycle do you say, now I understand what you were saying. And so I think that we want to come in and be able to train everybody and then circle back and say, hey, do we need, after that, now what do we need to work on again? But I think one of the most important things where I would start is with the ballot on demand, only because if there's a mistake on that ballot on demand, you're in such a hurry to get those first ballots out. And when they come back, if they don't read, your life is, you've got a big bowl of spaghetti on your hands and you've got a mess.
And I would tell you, to explain this a little better, is that we have a mentor program since I'm a new deputy director. My mentor is in Jackson County. And not this last November, but the November before, their ballots were not going through. And what had happened is that she's a longtime deputy director and director. And she finally looked at the ballot and realized that the markings on the side were not the, where the scanner could read it. And I was like, oh my gosh, how long do you have to work before you understand, or you can recognize that it's the paper, that it's,
Yeah, and what she is referring to are the black boxes that run down the side. Those are called timing tracks.
timing tracks.
And Jackson County uses a different vendor, but they're all theoretically the same. The scanner's got to be able to pick up those marks. It's got to know where they are. And there are start and stop boxes. This is one of them right here. It's got to see that big box, and basically what that does is it tells the system which orientation this ballot is coming through, and it's all got to be lined up, and whether this is the front or the back of the ballot, so it knows what's coming. And if those aren't there, or if, gosh forbid, someone has drawn up on this ballot, sometimes it can be faked out and saying, hey, I think it should be the other way around. So there's a lot of things on this ballot. And those ballots, again, if they don't go through, it's, you're gonna have a very difficult election day because you've got to duplicate them all at that point. And that is no fun.
And the majority of those, we've only, our scanner, I will tell you, when Mandy and I were scanning prior to election day, we only had, I think, 2 that were rejected, and it was because of that little black box, one of the time markings on it, so.
Yep. And again, the settings that are on the printers, it tells it how far out to take those boxes. And sometimes you're gonna look at these and you're gonna say, boy, these black boxes look like they're truncated. They're only half of the box. That's because the settings are on the printer.
Okay.
And it won't pick it up going through the scanner.
So I understand OKI is leaving the Americas. Did you hear that, or?
They're always,
we're not happy with OKI, if we can, if I can be honest here.
There are some other ones, if you want to look at them, they're inexpensive. Is Oki the one that's with the,
Both of these,
okay,
yes. And we still have another printer that they loaned us.
okay,
We sent one back and they didn't like they gave us no packaging directions or anything. They sent us a nice nasty little email saying that we were responsible for this. Our insurance, the county insurance was ready to pay everything out. And I think maybe I talked to somebody from your shop said, no, that's not your fault. They gave you no packing instructions. All they said was, here's the label for it, take it to a UPS store.
The toner got loose.
The toner got loose.
So
They didn't
Shall we
bump over
say?
everything.
So it was,
that'd be up.
So it was functional, it was just
it just needed cleaned up.
needed a wash.
So I responded saying, you gave us nothing, no directions on how to do this. Let's work this out or whatever, and I never heard back from them.
The other question I had is, in this training, will it include the creation of a ballot from a blank sheet of paper?
Yes, and yeah, I would probably want to work with you on kind of what our criteria are. What do we want our curriculum to be? Do we want it to be all hardware and, the printer is my biggest thing. But do we want it to be ballot creation, or do we want to talk more about, hey, election day setup and logic and accuracy training? You'll help us with that.
Okay.
And we will settle on that before we come in for the training.
Okay.
So before we come, we'll have a little document for you that says, hey, this is what we're gonna cover. This is how much time we think that each one of them will be. And again, we'll start at that point.
Yeah.
The nice thing, you use Triad, correct?
Yes, we do.
Okay. The nice thing with Triad, they do have some nice import, we've got some nice import capability with them now. And what that means to you is that some of your ballot information, we don't have to recreate the wheel each election. So we can import a lot of stuff, which means we don't mistype the word Washington.
Yeah.
Or primary or general
Or
election.
Joseph under Biden.
Or something, those types of things. So there are some nice new shortcuts. But I think what we'd like to do is, we'll send you we can put a little document together and I'll send you a note that says, hey, this is what we'd like to cover. And then you can either say, this looks good, or we want to change something. Something else is important. I want this item moved up to the top, whatever it might be. But we'll give you a list of 4 or 5 items and you can tell us how many days you would like us to do it. Training is like anything. Too much of it, like a whole week of training gets to be, to me, overload. I think 2 days, but maybe it's hey, we train on Monday, we take Tuesday off when we come back, and we come back on Wednesday type deal where you get a chance to sit down and think about it. And then maybe ask better questions even on Wednesday saying, hey, let's get back to some stuff we talked about a day or so ago. And this is what we thought we understood it, but I don't think we do.
Okay. I agree.
And again, I don't think that this isn't gonna be a magic wand either that says, hey, once you do this, everything's perfect. But I think it'll certainly help because like anything, and I'll tell you, I was just on a Zoom call and everyone's got one of these deals. I was on a Zoom call. I've got a brother that was on the call with me and he's helping us with some website stuff. And finally, he just had to say, hey, Todd, fix your audio. Because no one had the guts to tell me.
So your brother can tell you, yeah.
But he finally had to stop and say, hey, enough of enough. Yeah, enough is enough, I can't take it anymore. But those are sometimes the type of deal that happens, that even for the best of us, that don't know what we don't know sometimes. And I think we need to sit down for, some training and then go through it and say, hey, this is what we really liked out of it, and this is what we still feel we're missing.
Do you suggest that we don't have our own designated our own IT person hired by this board.
Right.
But Joseph has been our godsend since I've started here, and in fact, somebody called him in to come in, so is this something that you think he should be involved in as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
He's pretty good too, I mean, he can, we never had him come in and do our LNA
He
testing.
took us through that Attorney General 27
Oh, yes,
box security.
yeah, the cybersecurity stuff that we had to do last year.
I would, and whether we rely, whether he takes over certain things, there are certain parts of it, in certain parts of the coding, get to be tricky. And,
So will we be able to code after this?
and not after, probably not, you'd have a high level of what we're trying to accomplish. I don't think, in my mind, not after this first one.
Okay,
I think we've got some more fundamental
okay,
things I want to work on
okay.
before we get in. I mean,
He's saying you're not ready.
Well, I know.
You'd be blind.
I do have to remember, I'm completely self-taught on the computer. When I went to college, I didn't take a computer class.
But it would, having Joseph sit through, it would obviously. He will naturally have the tech inclination.
Election meeting.
The rest of us.
Yeah,
and that's what I'd like to propose to you. What I'd like to do is to put something in writing for you and send you a little bit of an agenda, and tell you how many days we're thinking, and then what I'd like you to do is to give me some input, to say, hey, we like this and like this. Don't be afraid to tell me that.
oh, I welcome this, I really do, and especially at this point, I will have to tell you, the testing we did this year with Jeff, it just like clicked. And he explained it in a way that I completely understood, so, I think this is just perfect timing.
Part of that is a trainer sometimes, part of it is that you kind of seen the whole process go through, so now you understand, well, this is why you do this.
Oh,
here.
yeah,
Because whatever you do on that front end affects the back end.
exactly,
There's nothing that happens that
No,
doesn't.
you're right,
Whether it's you misspell, if you misspell something on the front end, under
Yeah.
that you can see it.
yeah.
I was hoping it was money coming our way.
You don't have to sign up.
I don't have to find out, all right, okay. That's a good.
And I would just mention that I talked to Todd before we came in here, and I had suggested, I thought this was a good idea to have some training.
Yeah,
Because you're now far more familiar with the equipment, and so you probably have more questions that are more advanced.
Yeah, more advanced
Questions and so forth about when we had this problem, et cetera, and
so
that to
my
me
question
is
back up
important.
to Oki. So if they're leading the support for that machine, will that still
I
be
think that's it.
run back or will
It'll
it?
still be run back.
Okay.
I'll talk to the run back guys, because I think you're still gonna continue, we'll make this stuff work.
Okay.
There's no reason you should be having any problem.
Okay,
I think the email I got said it would be supported through 26, I think.
Okay.
To 2026.
through OK on.
Or through, well, Runback. But it would
Okay.
be, yeah, but they would get us from OKI, any parts we needed or consumables like that.
But again, to me, that's another reason for Todd to come in and give us training,
Yeah.
because we're gonna reach a point where there's.
We won't need his because he wasn't here to vote on it, so it doesn't
We have
matter.
one.
So I think it's important to get that training, and again, during this off-season, could be good in that, we'll have some days where, they can, you're not inundated with something new falling in.
Yeah.
And you
That's
can't
what
close
Todd
off.
was talking about, is
Yeah, we
effectively
can.
I think that's a-
bring two people and man the phones.
Well, we learned
You're
that
here to be
after
educated,
November. We had to have
and
people
you
answering
think
the
of
phone
like
coming in,
Monday
because
and-
we did that whole primary with this.
We have a chance to,
And we can't.
Or
we can't
like
do
go
that.
Monday and,
Well,
We
and
just
we would,
can't.
and, it's been,
we think
it's funny how
this, we
different
think
the
that.
election is today
Want to run that again?
4 years ago.
Oh,
So,
And I think it would be
Not
good.
I
10,
think that'll be,
4.
yeah,
Now your biggest precinct is this
you got some money
office.
back,
yes,
Now you're
from
doing-
line.
Half of your ballots
Yeah.
at early
Third.
absentee or whatever verbiage we're using.
we had 12,000 people come through here in November and vote.
Yeah, we're about a third, Todd, and I'll be honest with you, those numbers sort of hold up, kind of close. In that if, well, this past election, we had a little over 1,000 come early,
Mhm.
and our total vote count, 3 and change.
Yeah,
And it's funny, you say it's very interesting to see how much it's changed just in the past 5 years.
mhm.
5 more from here. I think they're throwing some security stuff at us that that will be interesting.
That Ohio is not already doing?
Oh, yeah, the Fed want to jump into it and you get too many people on a committee. They want to watermark and they want to treat your ballots like currency, I think.
That's expensive.
There's some people.
That sounds real expensive.
Watermarks are okay, but again, I think, me personally, I think there are other checks and balances within the office, regardless of what happens.
I still think the greatest check and balance is that when you vote, we mark you. And so it doesn't matter if your ballot was a watermark ballot or one that got rolled up like a softball.
Yeah.
You only get to give us one of those puppies,
Yeah,
and that's the only one our system's ever gonna see. And I think that to me is one of the important aspects of, assuring people that, we're doing it correctly.
And I won't get into this too much, but they were asking about all sorts of stuff on this. Let's pretend that this is an absentee mail ballot. They're wanting to be able to track this back to the voter.
Yeah.
And that's what nobody wants.
And I'm
Yeah,
just,
but nobody wants.
Well, no,
nobody actually wants that.
you weren't in for our thing. When we first started, the very first time, the way the staff had been doing it is they just put the names down of all of the provisionals and absentee ballots. And the whole board said, well, wait a minute. If there's only one in that precinct, heaven forbid, Dennis Sipe, a Democrat, ends up voting for Jim Schneider, and I'm the only provisional. And they announce my name. Jim Schneider is an R, I'm a D. And there was a D running. Dennis Sipe might not be looked at so nicely, perhaps, by people. We said, so we do numbers and letters that don't identify because we don't want somebody to look at it and go, oh my goodness, this is what I can't believe that. We're buying screens. We now make sure that everybody's back is to a wall to vote so no one can see. I think it would be horrendous that you could go back and track a ballot.
Yeah.
That you've lost
there's
complete
more than a handful of
secrecy.
people that want this, and I'm telling you, I think it's like a fundamental, just so basic that I just shake my head. And
It's
I,
a
Is that-
bedrock.
Is this on the
Right.
federal level?
yeah,
Yeah, boy, it's a
All right.
bedrock.
the
Right.
state, the state of Indiana is they want this badly, and it's like, I guess there are more things behind it, I guess, than I know, but we won't go there.
Well, God bless Indiana. The one thing I found fascinating is that they had that, remember, well, no, you wouldn't have been, you may have, Charlie was. The Secretary of State showed up in Ohio to explain what they were doing. And they were voting back then at Walmart. You could vote in any Walmart in Indianapolis for the early voting, any Walmart. Because they said everybody went to Walmart. Costco probably was, affronted by that and Target, but you could vote at Walmart and so forth. And they were using some Wi-Fi system so that you didn't run to, every Walmart in the outer belt and cast your ballot. So you could only vote once. But of course, now we learn Wi-Fi is not necessarily such a great thing because somebody could snag it and so forth, and you didn't vote or change, or knows what you could do, or you did, but you didn't, et cetera. So,
But just to kind of wrap up, I'll put a document together for you and
Yes.
kind of outline things, and you, this is an interactive document.
Good.
You give us some input also, and we'll kind of get going. Do you have an August special?
No.
Okay.
Thankfully, yes.
Okay. So then work on what date you want. And one thing, we're waiting, there's gonna be a firm, we're waiting to do your PM event, your preventive maintenance. We're waiting, there's some de minimis changes that Unison wanted to get through the state on the software. There are some changes at the federal level, so it's been kind of slow, so we're waiting for the kind of the bottleneck at the federal level to be able to come in
And do,
we want to do the software change when we do the PM.
okay,
So
that'd be
that's,
good. So it's all.
And that will be
done.
before the November.
yes, that'll be before November. Yeah, and there are a couple of changes. I know that Delaware County was one that really wanted a couple of these changes made, so they're stomping their
And we
feet.
have one with, like, when people are at the end of their ballot, it says to hit the done button,
There's no.
but it doesn't, there's no button that says done, it says review.
And that is one of the changes that you'll be able to change in your coding. And-
Okay.
And
So as long
whoever,
as we're good
yeah,
then.
you're good. That's right.
well, that would be a good one to
Yeah.
figure out.
I'm not gonna have to do it. What is it,
Not you,
the
somebody else.
C command, the dot?
Any other questions for me? I'm gonna stick around. There are some
Yes.
reports that we wanna do, so I'll get out of your hair if you're all finished. And if you've ever got any questions, please don't hesitate to call, or let me make sure we know. Don't think that, don't be that guy in that Zoom call that wasn't telling me they couldn't hear my voice.
I have a
Or very
question.
well.
I'm sure you heard, because Janice was here in November, but that TN that failed because the machine wasn't shut down properly. Is there no backup, I mean, can there be a designed backup that if the one TN failed, the other one would still be legitimate?
Fill me in on what happened. The machine wasn't shut down properly, the OVO wasn't shut down properly at the
Yes,
precinct
right.
level.
Yes,
They-
it was
Well, that
early
was,
voting,
it was one of ours
it
in
was
the office.
early voting in here,
Yeah.
so it had everybody's ballots in it.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm not sure we want an answer, because if we hear that
that
there was a
A
backup.
real simple thing, other than having
And we
Khadid.
did that all freaking night.
I know.
I don't think I wanna know.
No,
I know.
no, there's
It's
not.
not whiskey strong enough to drink after that.
So the answer is no,
The
there
answer is
wasn't
no.
Yeah.
anything that
No.
could have done that.
Okay, I'm out of here, buddy.
All right.
I'll dress up today. I barely recognize you with that tie on.
Well, I had to start wearing my tie back to the office. We're opening up now.
Oh,
Well, you got customers coming in.
I've got a nephew who's he's an attorney. And he's an attorney with 4 kids under the age of 4 years old.
Oh, my.
Oh,
So he's been in the office every day since this thing started. He hasn't been at home. But, and they're trying to get their staff back in. And he doesn't complain, I saw him shake his head about 2 weeks ago. He said, boy, it's hard to get them back in. We wanted to get them all back in by the 1st of June, and he said, we've got a lot of pullback. And it's a big firm, and he said, his particular assistant, he feels is taking advantage of everything, so he's really shaking his
Don't
head.
say.
People do that?
Can't believe it.
You guys have always been.
We stayed open
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah.
We stayed.
I only have 3 clients, so, and they're all on death row.
So you stayed open.
I stayed open.
You don't get to see them very often.
I go to my closet in what is called the office. My wife has this beautiful office with a big desk and stuff. I'm in a closet.
and you're in the closet.
I'm truly in a closet with my death penalty, guys.
Okay.
I'll send everything over Mandy's way, she can share it with the board, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Well, Todd, thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
And I'll be hanging out here
Okay.
whenever you're ready.
All right, Mandy, what else, if anything?
I think
We've signed everything?
we got everything signed, everything's covered.
You guys did not want us to do a physical audit, you were completely.
Yeah, audit was optional, they said, for this,
I think I'd pass.
I would too. I mean, it's
for this time,
Yeah,
Yeah,
election was.
I think
Well,
we're,
there aren't any close elections, so.
yeah. I
nothing
thought
was close
in
and,
November, if we wanna do one, if it's optional, maybe then we'll have one.
yeah, and November may change, they may make it
Yeah, right,
mandatory,
maybe
who
like a
knows?
short event.
And so forth, they may have tried, if they were wise to, with all the work the presidential required, that the next primary, let's not kill these people.
so my understanding is if somebody wants to be a write-in, they can still do that.
Yeah, I think it's August
It's in August,
20th.
but they have to be
somewhere around there.
a newbie, in other words,
Right,
they
they
can't
couldn't
be a
file for the
loser
same
or
office.
whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, because I did double check with the state for that, I think it was Nathan Green.
Right.
Right,
Didn't have
You
enough
have to be a
signatures.
new office.
Yeah, it would have to be a different office than the one you turned in for him.
yeah, that's a shame, I've known him since he was small.
it's good he came back to the area.
Yeah, he worked for ESPN and the Cleveland Browns.
Really?
Maybe the Indians as well. Yeah, really interesting.
So so we should check our emails for any updates about the.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's an afterthought.
Just tell me when to go.
It's an
when to go.
afterthought.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you got the phone call, when everybody, that's one thing, because they always make sure you emergency phone call from the.
Yes,
Right before the election.
Everybody-
Yeah, as long as we got
Seemed like
that.
everybody got it.
Oh, yeah.
We're not using our personal
Do
emails.
we have to do anything?
No, I
As
signed you
write-in
up.
or as
Yeah.
a standby?
You're already in, you're
So
already
we're
in.
registered and everything?
Yes.
I
Okay.
do think about
I have
that.
decided not to attend that
Mhm.
training. I don't know if you're still interested in
Well, then, because
the,
they
I think I had a
have
conflict.
some kind of
Okay.
FedEx one where you can do.
we're gonna be out of the
So
office.
So what do we
Yeah,
gotta
see,
do here? I don't have that change now, but.
I'll send it to you, but
I'm doing
I'm
the
gonna go
death
on Monday
penalty
because I've got
webinar
some classes I need to
Thursday and
take.
Friday.
I thought we had a hotel room for Monday night.
We do have one for Monday night, but I will go up Monday to the day. And then,
2 days.
yeah, so the reservations, you
Yeah.
can check in by 3 on Monday. The conference starts on Tuesday morning. And we're there for 2 nights.
Yeah, Monday night, Tuesday night, and
Yeah.
then Wednesday's very short usually. and
Yeah,
that-
usually we're done.
And, I think me and Karen already signed up for the REO classes that they
Yeah.
have. I wanted to at least sign up for one of them. There was
And
one.
those are done virtually the next day.
Yeah, they're done.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
They were 110 apiece.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna be around on Wednesday.
I'm not sure what time. I don't
We
think
don't have an
they,
agenda.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah, I don't
we'll
think
ride
we
together,
have
we'll
to.
get that. Like I said, I know I'm gonna go up because I think I have some more.
Is Glenn the only other board member other
Yes.
than?
Yeah,
Is it still at the Hilton?
For something?
Hyatt.
I mean, the
This
Hyatt?
time it's at the Hyatt.
First Tuesday.
yeah, Hyatt Region.
I think it
Yes,
has
we're
more.
staying, you're staying at the Hyatt,
Yeah,
Yeah.
staying there.
not at the Drury.
Right.
So the Hyatt has its own parking,
You guys.
Yeah, it has that parking
You and
garage.
Dennis.
There's that.
which is
well,
different than the Drury.
Yeah.
Right, you're going.
Yeah.
The Hyatt's connected to the whole convention center, everything. I think
Yeah.
they might have moved it there because they were still thinking of social distancing. That's my thoughts.
That's right.
Mhm.
Is that downtown?
It's down.
Yes, downtown next.
Remember that, the Hyatt's where we used to have it, we stayed at the Drury
Yeah.
and then walked through the skywalk over
Yeah.
to the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had large, though, they were really large rooms.
Just FYI, I understand Andy said that, the secretary has announced he is running again for reelection, so.
I'll make a motion, we need adjourn.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll second.
We have a motion second, any further discussion, hearing that, all in favor? Aye.
Alrighty, guys.
We are done.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hopefully,
What do we go to
better.
on the